There is so much talk right now about crime in America, not just in urban areas anymore, but virtually in all areas of the nation. And as our audience knows, we have less law enforcement officers than we've had, frankly, in my lifetime, and yet we have more crime. So I thought today we should talk about how people can protect themselves when law enforcement can't be around, and also how law enforcement can help protect ourselves legally. We have a lot to talk about. So I thought you all needed to meet Kirk Evans. He is the president of S Lawshield. And we're going to talk, first of all, about what your company does, Kirk, and how they help safety-minded Americans.
Sure. We are the nation's largest legal defense for self-defense program. There's two parts to that. One, for a small monthly fee, we will provide you with a legal defense from start to finish if you ever have to use your firearm or any other lawful weapon to defend yourself or others. The other half of that program, though, is education. Doesn't do anybody any good whatsoever to do the first part if they don't know the second part, which is education. And we do thousands of seminars every year for folks who want to learn about gun law and gun rights. And we provide a number of publications, newsletters, and actually wrote books in the majority of states on the gun law in those states.
So I love what you're saying, because, there's a lot of talk in the media that, don't get a gun, they're dangerous. Or there's other people saying, well, you better get a gun to protect yourself. But as someone who has carried a firearm since I was 21 years old, I know that just owning and carrying a gun is not very valuable if you don't know how to use it, and also when to use it, where you can use it legally, because in the United States, we have the Second Amendment, but then each state is able to regulate when you can use your firearm, both as a citizen, as law enforcement, and as retired law enforcement. So there's a lot to unpack here. So let's first talk about education. What does your average citizen need to know, Kirk, if they're thinking, you know what, I do need to get a firearm to protect my family? What do they need to think about first?
Well, so there's two parts to it, but I'll say one is get educated on the laws in your state. And just from a basic point, there are disqualifications on who can own or possess a firearm, and those differ in every single state and at the federal level. So you might have, some quirky little restraining order from an old divorce that went away that seems like it was nothing, and you might be barred from possessing a firearm. So, you see a hot story on the news, run out, buy a gun, and you haven't got the law correct in your state or federally, you might be a felon at that point. So one, figure out, can I even possess this firearm? Then two, you have to figure out, and this is a very personal decision, what are you going to use this firearm for? When are you going to use it, and what do you feel comfortable doing? And I will say, frankly, we have members. I remember a member, and she is a member of our program, but she said, no, if we have to use it, it's going to be my husband. And she has a gun. She just knows that at the end of the day, maybe this is not the thing for her. It's going to be her husband. So you have to come to that sort of personal decision, what you're prepared to do, what you would do if you needed to. And there's just a gigantic spectrum there. So, obviously you're attacked with a firearm, you truly are in danger of dying. Most people can bring themselves to think that they're going to use a firearm there, but what if it's, something in the middle of the road? What if it's a property issue or someone who is unarmed? You need to think through all of those personal circumstances, what's right for you, what you're going to feel comfortable doing. Then once you get there, then you need to be trained up on that firearm. We deal with thousands and thousands of instructors around the country, firearms instructors, and I've heard stories, frankly, there are people that come to them that probably should not have. I mean, we're pro-gun, we're a gun, we support everybody who wants to tote a gun, but frankly, there are some people who should not have a gun, don't know how to use it, aren't ready to use it. And so if that's you, you better get trained up, you better practice, you better figure out how to use it, so that if the time comes, you do use it. And then finally, get educated, not just on when you can have that gun, but get educated on when you can use the gun. And the laws vary in every single state. Some states, for here in Texas, technically under the law, you could shoot someone for criminal mischief in the nighttime. Probably not a good idea. But in other states, in New Jersey, you have to yell out to tell people, if you have an intruder in your house, you have to yell out to try to get them to leave before you can shoot them in your home. So learn the law in your state on when you can use that gun.
You bring up so many fantastic points. And one of the things that I want to talk about is the fastest growing demographic, correct me if I'm wrong, in firearms today is women. Right.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
we have been heading on an upward trend for women purchasing and owning and carrying firearms. And I know as a public speaker, I very often encounter citizens, women who have decided they want to carry a firearm. So they very often they will talk to a man that they respect or appreciate or they think is knowledgeable. And then they end up with this giant, because they've been told you've got to have this 45 with a, 2-foot extended magazine and all these things. And they're scared to death of it. They can't hold it, much less shoot it. And so it ends up sitting in a safe, kind of a very expensive item in their safe. And it doesn't do them any good. Can you talk about that a little bit and what your organization does for example, novice shooters and novice possessors, especially women?
Sure, and a couple ideas on that is you can go. Women can go with friends who are women. There's sort of you feel more comfortable in numbers. Going by yourself, heck, even for guys, going by yourself to the range for the first time is very intimidating. You just, what are they going to ask me? What should I do? How do I carry it? That's very intimidating. But go, maybe get a bunch of friends and go together and go take a class. We do have a couple publications on range etiquette, range behavior, and our members can access those. You can read up on all of that beforehand, and then, either go with a significant other or even, maybe even a son or a father, or just get a bunch of ladies out there. There are, well-armed women. There are a bunch of nationwide and state women's organizations for women shooters, and you can look into those to get more comfortable. I would say the two, probably for me, the two most important things is one, get educated on the stuff we talked about earlier, where you can carry, when you can use it, and can I even have this gun? This is for the novice. And then two, probably go out and take some kind of basic firearm safety course before you even, try to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And I want to point out to everybody, who has not done any shooting or doesn't own a firearm, that I think one of the things that always gets lost when we talk about firearms is how much fun it is. It is so much fun to just go to the range and practice and learn and try different things. And again, especially for women and, even appropriate age children, all of my kids were involved in shooting sports and huntings and all that before they were adults. It's a lot of fun. It teaches great responsibility. It teaches people how to really think on their feet. And so I don't want everybody to be, oh my gosh, it's so scary, we're talking about guns, because shooting is really fun, isn't it?
Yeah, so I would say that the first 5 minutes in the range with all the pows and bangs and everything like that, But I'm 100% with you. Once that wears off, it is absolutely fun. Both of my kids, 9, 10 years old, were loving. They learned how to clear, jams in their firearms and how fast they could do it, and obviously very safely. But once that they overcame that, they're just absolutely tickled pink and beg me to go to the range whenever we can.
So, Kirk, we have the Second Amendment, which, in theory says that we can all, possess a firearm, utilize it if we need. We all, in theory, have laws that say if my life is in danger, that, as an American, I can utilize deadly force to save my life. So with all that, why do people need insurance?
Well, what's the best way to boil that down? There are cases where people are charged every day where it is clearly self-defense. We just had a case 2 weeks ago where our program attorneys were just, this is absolutely self-defense. The DA was convinced this is absolutely murder. So two reasonable minds, maybe they weren't all reasonable, completely different. Case went all the way to the jury. At the end of the jury trial, very quick, not guilty verdict. And the members of the jury wanted to talk to our program lawyers about why in the world did they even bring this case? So one, just cases that get charged incorrectly all the time. Number two, there are a number of jurisdictions around the country where if you discharge a gun, it doesn't matter what the circumstances, doesn't matter how justified the shooting is, you will go to the grand jury. And that's here in Harris County. It doesn't matter, little old grandmother defending herself against a cartel attack. The policy here is it goes to the grand jury. So, why do you need the insurance? That there are just too many horror stories that we've experienced, from thousands and thousands of member incidents, that you need that coverage. Now, two, one of the other benefits of our program is you can, with our program, you can talk to a program attorney anytime you want during regular business hours and just ask, firearms questions. Hey, I'm going across state lines. What do I need to know? Basically unlimited calls to our program attorneys to ask any questions you want about firearms topics.
I love that. And that's something that law enforcement runs into all the time, both retired and current law enforcement. If I was still on the job, of course I could carry my firearm off duty in the jurisdiction where I work, but there's something called the Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act. It's known as HR 218, although there's some changes in all of that. But that basically says that if I follow certain guidelines, go through certain training each year, depending on where I live and where I was a police officer, that I can carry a firearm in all 50 states. So again, in theory, somebody like me is covered, but there's a whole lot of differential in that situation too, isn't there? Crossing state lines, going different places. And I know that your company is involved in also helping current peace officers and retired peace officers as well, who are have to use deadly force, who are forced to, right?
Oh, no. So absolutely. We have thousands of LEO members and probably thousands of former LEO members also. And our program works the same way with law enforcement officers. If you are forced to use your weapon or firearm or any other legal weapon, we'll cover you start to finish, whatever legal help you need. Obviously, some folks say, well, my department provides a defense or my union provides a defense, and that's absolutely fine. You use this as much as you need or don't need. If you feel comfortable in the situation and don't want us, great. If you don't feel comfortable and you want us, great. We're there to help. So yeah, we and retired officers as well.
So this is something that my husband and I travel the country and we train police officers. And in one of our classes, we talk about off-duty officer safety, involving your family, talking to your family about it. And one of the things we talk about is you may be somewhere where you don't have your firearm. So you may have to use an improvised weapon, whether it's a chair in a restaurant or a baseball bat, that you keep in your truck or whatever. So there's more weapons than just firearms that you might potentially have to use. And I think something unique about you guys is you cover those non-firearm weapons, right? Talk about that part of the program.
Sure. Basically all legal weapons are covered, bazooka, hand grenades. Nope, probably not going to work. And that's going to depend upon what's legal in your state. So New Jersey, slingshots are illegal. So unfortunately, we wouldn't cover you with a slingshot in New Jersey. But yeah, in Texas, any Texas, Illinois, you name it, any lawful weapon is covered. And that works in, the circumstance you described. Sometimes you just accidentally don't have your firearm. You just are at a quirky scenario and you just get the first thing that you got. Then there are other times where we have lots and lots of members who are absolutely gun toting, what, but they do want to have a backup non-lethal weapon because when they come to their personal decision, they've decided, here's when I'm going to use my gun. And here's just when I want to, stop somebody or make somebody go away. And so they, carry a secondary weapon that's non-lethal. We cover all that stuff as well.
Well, sure. And there are, just so folks know, there are civilian versions of the taser. There are different levels of pepper spray. There are different striking instruments that, citizens can purchase and train with and utilize. So yeah, there absolutely are lots of non-lethal or less lethal weapons that are available. And it's good to have not only the education about them, but the legal coverage as well to be able to utilize that. Because again, going back to what we were talking about in the beginning, we really are living in a nation now where we have less police officers, higher response time very often, and frankly, more crime. So in areas where you weren't, thinking you were going to be the victim of a crime, you might well be the victim, right?
That's correct. And I guess that ties in. The third point is, so there are a lot of places you can't even have your gun. And so that's where you may want to have that backup non-lethal weapon, pepper spray, something that is permitted. Again, there's sometimes where the gun is off limits, and so are a bunch of other weapons, but there are definitely, research and figure out what tier weapon that you want to bring in, because if it's a non-gun place, and as you stated, where there's an increase in crime in that area, one, you may just want to avoid it, but two, make sure you can bring in what you need in that type of situation.
Well, absolutely. And the National Police Association, we have a public service announcement that that we released a while ago, and we continue to put out there, where we ask citizens that if you see a police officer who is in an altercation with someone and maybe is getting the bad guy is getting the best of them, we ask people, look, don't just film it, but certainly call 911, let them know what you're seeing. And then if you can safely do so, and if the police officer welcomes it, try and help that police officer. Have you seen situations like that, or is that something that you cover in your informational trainings?
Sure, absolutely. And that is I will say the spectrum on that is gigantic. So that's a personal decision. This does not happen like you think it happens in the movies. We have had complete and total heroes assist, with officers and shoot fleeing felons that worked out perfectly. But we've had other members who, pulled a shotgun on an undercover officer, and they didn't know what was going on and didn't understand the situation. And they now have pulled a shotgun on an undercover police officer and are charged with assault with a deadly weapon on a peace officer. Horrible situation. So this is one, to me, it is very, very difficult. There's a gigantic spectrum, but as you described, so what I would say, the sort of the easy one, officer down, someone about to, execute innocent people. There's no other possibility. If you can get the officer to indicate he wants help, then, yes, we encourage that. The other end of the spectrum, 7 officers responding to shoplifting, they seem to have it under control. do not pop up with your gun at the scene and, decide you're going to jump in to help these 7 officers on a shoplifting case. It is not a typical, you know this better than me, it is not typical for an officer to encounter this. So we recommend make sure the officer wants your help, make sure the officer knows who you are. Don't do just pulling out a gun in the middle of a criminal situation with an officer there, because for all he knows, you're helping the bad guy. And then for all you know, you're pulling the gun on an informant or an undercover police officer. So this is very, very, very tricky. Make for darn sure you understand what is going on before you do that, and do try to get the officer's permission / request for help.
Well, and you bring up such an important point. And what I want people to really understand is when we encourage, and when people, when companies like you encourage people to utilize their Second Amendment rights, we encourage it, and you encourage it with the utmost of seriousness and responsibility. And that is really what the Second Amendment is all about, right?
No, that's correct. It does not do anybody any good to have an uneducated gun owner take their gun into a place where they can't use it, in a ridiculous, shoot somebody on their front lawn who's yelling bad word. It just doesn't do anybody any good. It is always a last resort. There's just, just think long and hard, and just hope it doesn't happen to you where you do have to use your firearm.
Kirk, where can people find out more about U.S. Lawshield?
Sure. Just go to uslawshield.com. The website tells it all, and lots of great info there.
Thank you so much for educating us today, spending time with us. And if you would like more information about the National Police Association, visit us at nationalpolice.org.
Ma'am, put the gun down! Put the gun down!
Last year, law enforcement officers were involved in hundreds of thousands of use of force incidents. A use of force incident is when an officer must use nonverbal tactics to gain control of a dangerous situation.
Put the knife on the ground.
In many cases, officers have no choice but to use force when a suspect doesn't comply with a lawful order.
Use of force is always ugly. No one likes it, especially police officers.
Together, we can help de-escalate these dangerous encounters. Help police officers by complying with their lawful orders. Don't attack, attempt to disarm, or flee from an officer.
Use of force is an officer's last option. Most incidents can be avoided by not resisting arrest.
If you feel you've been wrongfully detained by a police officer, then seek a legal solution after the encounter has been resolved.
Let's keep everyone safe. Comply now and complain later.